Hey everybody, Caleb Arthur. I'm the CEO and owner of Sun Solar here. I've got Kyler Brown with me. If for those of you who don't know Kyler is the top energy consultant at Sun Solar in our residential and commercial divisions. He slings more solar than like the next four people combined. So definitely have some brain power in the room with me today because it's not coming from this side. So anyways, Kyler, thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Kyler is usually kind of the quiet guy behind the scenes. It's just always working and dealing with customers. A majority of his sales that he makes are actually referrals, which we call self-generated leads. And so that means that he builds good relationships with his customers, and then they refer friends and family and coworkers to him, and then he works that network, right? So the big reason why I wanted to have Kyler on the day, Kyler is what I would say on the cutting edge of understanding how the solar industry is functioning and working in the state of Illinois. And Illinois is a big market for us. We are really excited about continuing to expand into Illinois, but there's some big new key things that are breaking loose that Kyler's on the forefront of. So obviously, solar industry has been good to you in Illinois. It's probably been what % of your total sales in the last 12 months?
In the last year, 100%. In the last 2 years, 95%.
Yeah. So Illinois is a good
market.
Good market.
If you're in Illinois, go solar.
Yep, exactly. And that's because of the incentives they have. They have the net metering 1-to-1 buyback when you overproduce during the day and backfeed in the utility company. And then they also have the SREC, and the SREC is just a government-based utility type incentive, and it's a rebate that comes back to help offset the customer's cost, right?
That, and then coupled with just high utility rates, it makes it a perfect storm to be able to go solar.
For sure. So what's the big thing that we want folks to understand about the Illinois solar market, and what's the big changes coming down the pipe?
Great question. So this year is the biggest year. If you have ever thought about going solar, now is the time to be looking at it. And the main reason for that, in addition to the SRECs and the other federal incentives that are available, is there's a net metering deadline that is December 31st of this year. Those of you who might not know what the solar terminology word for net metering really means or how it's going to impact you, is when you have solar, you've probably heard that you are selling energy back to the utility company. And so net metering is where the investor-owned utilities are required by law to credit you at the full retail value for every kilowatt hour that's going back into the grid. So you're getting full dollar value, as they continue to increase their rates. If you're at 16 cents right now, and in 5 years they're at 20 cents, that 1-to-1 kilowatt hour is still worth that full value no matter what their rate is. So your short-term ROI, your long-term ROI is going to be the absolute best if you are grandfathered into net metering. The deadline is a system has to be energized by December 31st of this year to get grandfathered into that net metering program, and you would be grandfathered in for 30 years. They're transitioning next year to more of a wholesale-based credit system, and basically kind of how that works is solar will still make sense next year. It's not like it's not going to make sense, but the solar credits for Ameren customers or ComEd or any of the other investor-owned utilities is they break your bill down into separate line items, right? So they bill you for supply, so the utility supplying that electricity to you, and then delivery, so them actually delivering that kilowatt hour to you, and then all the other fun taxes and fees down at the bottom of your bill. And so next year, if someone were to wait to go solar, the solar credit, so that kilowatt hour that goes into the grid, will still continue to offset the supply side of the bill, but it will not offset the delivery side of the bill. And so basically what that means is any time when the sun is not shining and your solar is not producing electricity, so that power is coming from the utility, they're going to bill you for the delivery portion of that kilowatt hour. And no matter how much solar you produce, that solar credit is not going to offset the delivery side. So it basically winds up with, right now, if we do a 100% offset solar system, your utility bill for the electric portion can be $10, $11, $12 a month at most, as long as we're offsetting on an annual basis 100% of that. Going forward into next year, that 100% offset really becomes only a 60 to 70% offset because you're always billed for the delivery.
It's always amazing how people change the rules of the game when they don't like how it's affecting them, right? And I think the big thing is that utilities are seeing that this option to be able to go solar, having kind of freedom from the utility company's monopoly business model, since you're using them to backfeed energy to, that they are turning around and selling to the next door neighbor for full to retail.
Yeah.
They want to try to make money off every solar customer now. So they're
Demand
mostly
charges
raising millions of dollars off the ratepayers. They're going and donating that to politicians, and they're saying there's a better way to help our utility, and that's by not allowing people to go solar, right? And we see that in every state we operate in. That's why we are so politically motivated in Missouri to protect our net metering laws, because we don't have SRECs in Missouri like Illinois does, right? So if net metering went away in Missouri, there would be virtually nobody going solar, and if they did, they'd want to add batteries or do smaller systems, right? Yeah. So it's critical that if you're in Illinois and you're on the fence about going solar, the payback time and the cost effectiveness of going solar is better right now than it will be a year from now. And I can't honestly say that in every market. Now, the nice thing is that when people go solar, 99% of the time they're grandfathered in on net metering. So, Illinois is going to grandfather you for 30 years. So the key is, no matter what solar company you choose, no matter what state you live in, the chances of the value of your solar system being tied to the grid is going to potentially go down every year moving forward, whether your state is currently moving away from a one-to-one net metering, because these changes happen all the time. Missouri is one of the few states that's passed a pro-solar bill in the last 5 years, and we've even seen states like California that have virtually gutted their entire solar industry, where 40,000 plus people in that industry have been laid off because the utility companies teamed up and were able to roll back the solar policies. And so,
but all the homeowners who went solar before that net metering 3.0 was launched, they are grandfathered in. Yep. They are that thing, with how sky high utility rates are out there, that thing has paid for itself multiple times over. Yep. Every single system out there.
In Missouri, particularly, two small city utility grids, the Missouri state law says is that once you hit 5% of your total of that total utilities peak production or consumption, then solar can be denied from being connected to the utility grid. We've seen that happen in two small cities in Missouri. So it's a matter of time before certain utilities start coming out and saying no more solar. And by the time they come out and say that, the deadline could possibly already be passed. Yeah. So it's one of those things that if you've wanted to go solar and you want to get off that roller coaster of what is my utility rates going to be today, what are they going to be 10, 15 years down the road? I've used this analogy so many times, but like you said earlier, like we're going to show copies of these utility bills before and after solar and these line items, but 90% of the population can't look at a utility bill and know what the hell they're paying for. Right. It's just too confusing. They do it on purpose. All you know is you come in and you flip the light switch, you have your HVAC on, and you end up with a $300, $400, $500 utility bill, and you go, how did I get here, right? And part of it's inflation, part of it's greed, part of it's utility business models. Most utilities are legal monopolies that are guaranteed a certain rate of return on their investment to be guaranteed profits. And so that's why they raise your rates, and that's why they're approved to raise rates like nobody's business, to where we're more of a free market company. People believe in our product. They purchase our product, finance our product, and then we deliver to them a cost-saving measure. So it's effectively what we're doing is you think about, I was in high school when gas was under $1 a gallon. You probably remember gas being under $1 a gallon. Yep. Mostly what you could do is, let's go back to when gas was $1 a gallon. If somebody walked in and said, for $35,000, we'll finance you this gas pump, and for every gallon you pump from now to the next 30 years, you pay $1 a gallon for. How many people would buy that gas pump for
$1.50?
Or even $1.50, right?
And that's the whole conscious shift that you have to understand is, it's like, even if it was $1.50, if you had the foresight to know that in 5, 10, 15, 20 years you're going to be paying $3 to $5 a gallon, that's bottom of the barrel pricing right there, $1.50.
You're investing in the infrastructure to produce your own fuel, produce your own electricity, your own energy. So it's not one of these things that solar is always going to be a day one magic bullet for everybody, but you're hedging against inflation and the continuing rising cost. And I tell people the only two ways to get hurt on your investment for solar. Do you remember what the two things I always preach are that can happen that would hurt solar's investment? Sun stops shining.
Yeah.
And utility rates go down.
Yeah, and
What
neither
are
of
the
those are
chances?
happening.
Yeah,
Yeah, if
that's
the
like
sun
not paying
stops shining,
taxes,
we got
right?
way bigger issues than you paying your monthly utility bill.
You don't have to worry about your solar payment if the sun stops shining, right? Like, we're not going to be inhabitants of the planet anymore. And there's probably a higher chance of that happening, though, than utility bills being lowered by utility companies. Like, I think that the sun would stop shining before that, right?
Anything can happen.
So that's the big thing today is it's sometimes hard to pay attention to long videos, but what I've come to realize over time is that the average solar customer spends 14 hours researching solar before they sign a contract. And you probably run into that daily where they have a pretty good grasp and understanding. Because here's the thing, like, it's not a small purchase, right? This is a large purchase, a large investment people are making. There's a lot of fly-by-night solar companies that went bankrupt, ripping people off. And now consumers not only have to decide between, do I trust a solar company versus my utility company? Now they got to figure out which solar company they want to trust is the right one to pick, right? So now we're in a race. I used to always say our only competition is utility companies. Now our competition is utility companies and bad solar companies.
Yeah.
Because all they've got to do is slap solar on their name and they look and feel exactly like us. The only time you really recognize the difference is not when the salesman leaves. It's when your system's not offsetting your utility bills because they undersized your system, they didn't connect it, it didn't work, whatever it be, right? So.
People are smart nowadays, though. It's pretty easy to see through when someone is just trying to pull a fast one on you and all that. You know, the average customer nowadays can definitely see through a lot of that.
To kind of create a different segment that Jock can use, what are some of the top things that customers need to understand to know if they're dealing with a reputable solar company or not?
Oh, I mean, it just as simple as the way the salesperson is interacting with you. If they have the professional knowledge to be able to answer questions surrounding, the basics of how solar works, what they're proposing to you, is the right solution, the system size and how much production it's going to make. How long that company's been in business, what are some reputable clients that they've installed for, do they do everything in-house, do they subcontract everything out? I come across so many companies where the salesperson is independent of the solar organization, the installing crew is independent of that organization, who submits for the everything, and it's like you're dealing with 6 companies for this one project here. The one I see a lot is they don't have proper insurance. They might not have work comp. They have a subcontractor come to your house. The subcontractor gets injured. What's going to happen? The attorneys are going to sue you on your homeowner's insurance claim. So, picking contractors and actually prove that they have work comp, they have liability insurance, that that they're W-2'd employees. We don't have like 1099 employees that are contracted, and that's due to liability reasons, right? Like your legal representation of Sun Solar. If something was to happen, then that comes back on Sun Solar. But if you're a 1099 contractor using different companies' contracts, you can just say and do whatever you want, and then it's hard for the homeowner to hold anybody accountable. Yeah, exactly. In addition to that, I just want people to know, like, whether you go solar or not, that choice is up to you, obviously. But just know that if you don't, you're paying for everyone else to go solar. In Illinois specifically, if you look at the bottom of that bill there, where all the taxes and fees, there's like 5 or 6 different line items that that literally tell you you're paying for energy efficiency, transfer programs, and solar for all programs and everything. And so, the way these state programs are set up, especially around the SREC incentive, is it's not the utility companies that are ultimately paying for this money to go out to the ratepayers. It is you as the utility bill customer who is funding these programs. And so the longer that you wait, the more people have gone solar and the less money is going into this pot. So there's less of a pot to go around the longer that people wait. You see the transitions that are going on right now in Illinois specifically, and in 5-10 years, they're going to have literally 40% of their households that have solar. So
early bird gets the worm.
Exactly. So It may not be right for you, but I encourage you to at least have a consultation, look at the facts and the figures, and look at the savings on it. I mean, I have so many customers up there with a $400 or $500 a month bill, and if rates only increase 4% a year over the next 30 years, it's literally putting 250, 300 grand back in their pocket. I mean, that's not a small chunk of change there.
Businesses as well. Businesses can claim a lot of the same tax credits. They also get depreciation, and they can also qualify for SRECs in Illinois. So it's definitely critical to be thinking about every utility bill that you have and how do you zero that thing out. So
I love seeing commercial proposals where their net cost for the system is they're getting paid to go solar by the time.
And
all
then
those
it's too good to be
incentives
true,
go.
right?
Yeah,
and then they got to call the CPA or whatnot. So this is. Don't forget, this is Kyler Brown. He's our top energy consultant, and he's not our top energy consultant because he's just the best at selling a product. He's our top energy consultant because he actually cares for his customers. He follows through with their projects. He makes sure their monitoring set up, they're up and going, and that they're happy and that they're giving referrals to him. So
and if I don't think it's going to be a good fit for you, I'm going to tell you straight up. Like, I don't think solar would be a good fit for you, and I can't tell you how many referrals I've gotten just because somebody appreciates that honesty.
Yeah.
When solar is designed properly and sold properly, everybody wins, and that includes the utility company as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Definitely. So if you want Kyler, call into Sun Solar. So our main line here at the headquarters is 417-413-1786. There'll be all kinds of links and stuff in the comments and in the video that you can click on. But we can direct you to Kyler if you want to deal with him. If you want to deal with somebody else, we can help you there too. We got plenty of people ready to talk to you. So definitely appreciate everybody. Kyler, thanks for joining me today. And we got to get out of here so we can get back to work.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Cut.